Finally, after 1 year and 4 months, we have the new best strongest Glacio DPS in this game, the newest mommy, Hiyuki, and not so surprisingly enough, she instantly became one of the best DPS in this game. In this video, I will cover everything you need to know about her, including her kit, best weapons, echoes, teams, rotations, sequences, and more. So without any further ado, let's jump right into it. Starting with her kit. Hiyuki's kit has to be one of the most complicated kit in the game. Oh boy, I had a stroke reading all these texts, but worry not, cause despite its scary look, it is quite simple cause I am here to simplify it for you. She basically has 3 forte, and your goal is to fill these 3 fortes to unlock a second liberation. The first is a normal form, then comes a katana forte bar, and after that a forte bar with sakura petals. Let's start with her base form. In this state, she fills her forte bar using her basic attack stage 3 and intro skill. Her intro skill restores 200 points and her basic attack stage 3 restores 100. If you use basic attack 3 after resonance skill, then it will also restore 200 points. A great thing about the intro skill is that it instantly lets her cast basic attack 3. So in combat, the base forte bar will be filled using intro skill plus basic attack stage 3. Once the bar is filled, you can hold the basic attack to shoot 3 arrows. She is immune to any interruptions or damage during this. After casting this attack, her first resonance liberation becomes available. On using it, she enters the 4-claimed self state which changes her forte bar to this katana. She can fill up this forte using most of her attacks. Her most efficient way to fill this up is by using 2 of her resonance skill cast in this state and her basic attack combo. On filling every 1/3 of the bar, a circle icon will show up on the forte. When you have at least one of them, you can cast a special dash attack. For this, you just need to dodge after any of her basic attack or hold her resonance skill and press basic attacks to consume these circle icons up to 3 times. After performing 3 of these attacks, her forte katana bar will now get a sakura effect. You can consume this by using her heavy attack. This generates a stack of snow forged blade which enhances her second liberation. You can have 3 of these stacks and consume them with a second liberation, Hakka no Togame, by holding it to deal more damage. If you just tap the second liberation, she will not consume any of these stacks. And with this, she reverts back to normal form, ending her DPS rotation. Now let's talk about her another important mechanic, Glacio Chafe. Hiyuki can apply a bunch of Glacio Chafe stacks with quite a lot of her attacks throughout her rotation. When Hiyuki is in the team, she converts any Glacio Chafe stacks to Glacio Bite, similar to heliacal ember stacks of Zani, but Glacio Bite is still considered as Glacio Chafe. The damage is also considered as Glacio Chafe damage, which means it can benefit from negative status buffs like Chisa's weapon. And if an enemy has at least 10 stacks of Glacio Bite, Hiyuki consumes them using her first liberation or the dash attacks to freeze the enemy. Inflicting Glacio Bite also instantly trigger 1 instance of Glacio Bite damage based on the number of stacks the enemy has, which leads to more damage from negative status. Her first inherent passive gives her amazing buffs and it is related to negative status. When any resonator in the team applies Glacio Chafe or Havoc Bane, Hiyuki gains 1 stack of Snow Rust. Each resonator can only trigger this once, which means that if you have only Hiyuki in the team, you can get 1 stack. If you have Chisa as well, then you can get 2. And as of now, we don't have a third member for the third stack. Having 1 stack of Snow Rust amplifies the Glacio Bite damage by 30%, and Hiyuki's crit damage is increased by 40%, which is huge. 2 stacks lets Hiyuki deal additional instances of Glacio Bite damage with a fixed multiplier when applying Glacio Chafe. This gives a very big increase to her dot damage. And 3 stacks amplifies Glacio Bite damage by another 30% when Hiyuki is on the field. Her second talent allows her to get a Snow Forged Blade stack just by staying out of combat for 4 seconds. Just wait for 4 seconds before starting the combat and get a Snow Forged Blade point for her first rotation, which enhances her second liberation. And her outro skill gives a 20% Glacio damage amplification to characters other than Hiyuki against targets affected with Glacio Chafe. So we can guess that Hiyuki's dedicated Glacio support will be able to deal some nice damage. Also, most of Hiyuki's damage is considered as resonance liberation damage. For her talent priority, prioritize her liberation, followed by basic attacks and forte, then her resonance skill, and lastly her intro skill, which as always can be skipped if you wish to save some resources. Moving on to her weapons. As you might have guessed it, Hiyuki's best option is a signature weapon Frostburn, giving her crit rate and tons of other stats from passive, Glacio damage amplification, 10% defense ignore and 20% Glacio damage amplification. However, surprisingly, there is not that big of an increase over a standard option. I mean, it is still a decent upgrade, but the signature situation is not that bad like some of the characters. So this makes her very F2P friendly, as you can deal massive amounts of damage by using the Emerald of Genesis. Other crit statistics like Red Spring, Blazing Brilliance can give a similar performance. I am pretty sure every one of us have the Emerald of Genesis, but if you don't, you can use these 4 stars. I don't recommend buying Feather Edge, you can use Fable's Wisdom. Moving on to her echoes. The newest echo set, Wish of Quiet Snowfall, is tailor-made for her, giving her 10% glacial damage with 2 piece, and the 4 piece...
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no.
Basically gives her another 10% glacial damage and 25% crit rate. And the second part of the effect gives 25% glacial damage bonus to the next character, which is made for her future support. Freezing Frost is another option that you can use if you are just starting out or cannot farm this set yet. It is around 10% worse. And for echo skill, use the Threnodian Void Bond construct, which you can get from the new Denia weekly boss. It gives her 10% Glacio and 12% Resonance Liberation damage. For the echo main stats, since Hiyuki gets 25% crit rate from this echo set, and if you are using another crit rate weapon, then use crit damage on 4 cost. But if your build has low crit rate, maybe due to non-crit rate weapon and bad echo rolls, then you can use a crit rate echo piece. On the 3 cost, double glacial damage or a combination of 1 attack and 1 glacial damage and attack percent on the 1 cost. For our energy requirements, try to get around 16 to 25% based on your team. With Chisa, you can build the lower amount, and if you have JG as well in the team, then the energy requirements can go even lower. For substats, prioritize the required energy regen followed by crit stats, attack percent and liberation damage bonus. Moving on to our team comps. Hiyuki's best teammate is currently unavailable, but for now her best sub DPS is not so shockingly Lynae, thanks to her massive general buffs, resonance liberation damage amplification and good personal damage. And as I have been saying for my past few videos, Chisa with Rejuvenating Glow set is the best third slot member for Hiyuki, as she can apply Havoc Pain, which reduces enemies defense by up to 12%, activates Hiyuki's inherent passive, and also increases the Glacio Chafe limit from 10 to 13, boosting its damage. For the sub DPS slot, you can replace Lynae with JG, as she can provide Glacio damage amplification. You can also use Changli, as she can buff liberation damage, and if you don't have any of these characters, you can use Jianshin. And Chisa can be swapped out with another sustained support like Morne, Shorekeeper or Varina, with Morne being better with Lynae, performing similar to Lynae and Chisa team. Moving on to rotation. Despite how complicated Hiyuki's kit is, her rotation is quite simple and straightforward. We first start with her intro into her basic attack 3, then use heavy attacks to consume the forte and shoot arrows, then use the first liberation. Use the echo skill and the resonance skill 2 times, followed by her 5-hit basic attack combo or till her katana is filled, then perform a dash and press 3 basic attacks to consume the forte, use heavy attack and hold the liberation. You can optionally use her skill before outro and swap cancel if you have energy issues. Regarding the second liberation, you can optimize the consumption depending on your situation. It is perfectly fine to play normally and consume stacks to boost its damage, but when an enemy has low health, where you can finish it without consuming the Snowforge stacks, you can just tap the second liberation and save the Snowforge stack for your next rotation so that you don't waste any extra damage on a dying enemy. Moving on to sequences. Hiyuki has some decent sequences, which is a good news for players who like to pull sequences. The first sequence basically increases the damage of her basic attacks and improves the grouping of her basic attack stage 3. Additionally, it lets her inflict Glacio Chafe with more of her attacks. Sequence 2 increases the damage of her dash attacks in her katana form. The second inherent skill is improved, restoring 3 Snowforge Blade points instead of 1. The second half I believe won't be triggered in actual combat. The S3 enhances her first inherent skill, giving her additional Snow Rush stack, allowing you to get max stacks with just 2 Glacio Chafe or Havoc Bane characters. And the 2 stacks effect is also enhanced by increasing the Glacio Chafe damage multiplier by 488%. Additionally, the damage multipliers of her heavy attacks is also increased by 160%. The S4 gives a 20% damage increase to all resonators and gives some sustain to Hiyuki. S5 gives a damage multiplier to her resonance skills, which is useless. And S6 is a massive upgrade, giving a huge 500% crit damage boost to her resonance liberation. The inherent skill is also improved, where Hiyuki now triggers the Glacio Chafe damage when any member applies Glacio Chafe while she is the active character. Her crit damage is also increased by another 40%, and 3 stacks of Snow Rush increases the total Glacio Bite damage taken by enemies by 25%. For most sequence pullers, S2 or S3 are good stopping point, but I would highly recommend her signature before going for the sequences. So overall, Hiyuki is now the best Glacio DPS, along with being one of the best DPS in the game. She gets some interruption immunity during her attacks, and she can also freeze the enemies, which makes doing her rotations a lot easier and gives it a smooth flow. Her attacks also have some pull effect, giving her some crowd control. If you don't get interrupted, you don't get punished for it, which is amazing for casual players. She is also very F2P friendly when it comes to weapon choices, and unlike most negative status characters, her teams are not that restrictive and she can apply Glacio Chafe on her own without relying on a teammate. However, her team options are quite limited, as without Lynae, the other teams are not that great, and we still do not have a dedicated sub DPS. So what are your thoughts on Hiyuki, and how many pulls did it take you to get her? Cause for me, I needed freaking 140 pulls. And that's all for this video. Don't forget to like and share the video, and subscribe for more Wuthering Waves content. Join my Discord server to hang out with other wuwa players, and thanks for watching.